All right, now that we have learned to calculate growth, we're going to practice that a little bit, how to calculate growth, and then how we're going to use the growth rates that we calculate to forecast these fundamentals. So you'll recognize that these items up here on the screen, the net income and earnings per share from the income statement and assets and equity from the balance sheet, these are fundamentals, accounting items. And so we're going to calculate growth rates using the sustainable growth rate. We're going to calculate that, and we're going to calculate the compound annual growth rate of earnings per share, and we'll use those growth rates to forecast what we think the fundamentals will be in 2018. All right, so we calculate these historical growth rates, and then we apply them to last year's number in order to forecast next year's number. All right, so compute G for earnings per share, the growth rate, using both the SGR and the CAGR. So we're going to use the SGR first. And the SGR, here's the formula, the retention ratio times return on equity divided by 1 minus that. All right, and the retention ratio, you need to remember all of these formulas. Earnings per share minus dividends per share divided by earnings per share. So we have the data we need to compute the retention ratio, and so we see that earnings per share $2.41, dividends per share 52 cents, and so when we subtract dividends from earnings, we get the amount that's kept divided by the total amount of net income, and we get approximately 78%. Now we're going to have to calculate return on equity, and return on equity is net income divided by average equity. So we have our net income, and we have beginning equity plus ending equity divided by 2. We can do this for each year except for 2013. We need 2012 to do 2013. We don't have 2012, so we can only compute return on equity for 17, 16, 15, and 14. Okay, so let's go ahead. And I'm sorry, so we have our net income right here divided by our ending equity plus our beginning equity divided by 2, and we get 22.08%. So we have to add these two, divide by 2, put them in the denominator, and then divide our net income into our average equity, and we get 22%. So we have 78% and 22%, and so we're going to multiply our retention ratio times our return on equity and divide by 1 minus that, and we get a growth rate from net income and or earnings per share of about 21%. Now we're going to do it, we're going to do CAGR. We're going to compute another type of growth rate, and here is the formula that we've used. Ending value divided by beginning value raised to the 1 over n, and n is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minus 1, which is 4. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so n is going to be 1 over 4 here. So we have ending value $2.41 divided by beginning value $1.41, and then we raise it to the 1 over 4 and minus 1, and we get 14.34%. And we're going to take the two growth rates, add them together, divide by 2, and we get an average growth rate. And so we have a high growth rate, a low growth rate, and a most likely growth rate here. All right, and so this is the number, or actually we could use all three numbers if we wanted to come up with three forecasts, an optimistic, a pessimistic, and a most likely case for earnings per share. So we're going to use this number here. We're going to add 1 to it, 1 plus 0.1764, and multiply it by last year's earnings per share, $2.41 times 1.1764, and we get $2.84. This is next year's earnings per share. All right, so here's another problem. We're going to do this one on the board. So here's the data, okay? And so here are our fundamentals, and we have our equity, and we're going to compute the SGR and the CAGR for the entire period and forecast earnings per share. So let's get this chair out of the way here, and let's go ahead. Now what we're going to have to do is calculate our, says we want to CAGR earnings per share, so we're going to have to calculate our earnings per share. So we have net income and we have the number of shares. So let's go ahead and calculate our earnings per share for this period of time. Let's go ahead and see if we can get a black marker here. Do we not have a black marker? We do. We have a black marker. So let's do earnings per share. So we have 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2014. Okay, and so we have 5,000 divided by 1667, and we have 6,000 divided by 1650. So the company's buying back stock, 10 shares each year roughly, or 20 shares each year roughly. Then we have 7,300. Actually, there's not that much of a pattern here. Divided by 1630, and we've got 8,600 divided by 1620, and we've got 10,000 divided by 1610. Let's move our 2014 over just a little bit. You know, no matter where we start, we always run into the screen. We always run into something. 2014 is 11,500 divided by 1,600. So let's get our earnings per share. Let's get our calculator out here. Here we go. Let's do our earnings per share. So we've got, let's clear it out. We have 5,000 divided by 1667 is $3. And we have 6,000 divided by 1650 is $364. We're going to round up just a little bit. And 7,300 divided by 1630 is 4.48. And we have 8,600 divided by 1620, $5.31. And we have 10,000 divided by 1610 is $6.21. And then we have 11,500 finally divided by 1,600, and we have $7.19. So let's go ahead and CAGR that. Let's break the order up a little bit and let's do CAGR. So CAGR is equal to $7.19 divided by $3 raised, I don't even know why I put parentheses on here. Don't need the parentheses really. But we need parentheses this way. Raised to the 1 over 4 minus 1. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's clear this calculator out properly, and we have 7.19 divided by 3 equals yx 4 1 over x equals minus 1 equals, and we get 24.4%. All right. So let's take that. Well, let's do the SGR now. We're going to do the SGR. Then we will average these growth rates and apply them. So the SGR. Let's find the retention ratio in 2014, and so the retention ratio is earnings per share $7.19 minus dividends per share of $1.80 divided by earnings per share of $7.19. So let's clear the calculator out. 7.19 minus 1.8 equals, divided by 7.19 equals 75%. Okay, and let's find return on equity. Return on equity is 11,500 divided by our ending equity 53,464 plus our beginning equity of 51,081 divided by 2. And let's get our return on equity. So we have 53,464 plus 51,081 equals, divided by 2 equals, and let's go ahead and store that, so that's 52,272.5. Now let's clear it out, and we got 11,500 divided by that number, and we get return on equity of 22%. 22%. All right, so now let's take our retention ratio, 0.75 times 0.22 divided by 1 minus 0.75 times 0.22. And 0.75 times 0.22 is equal to 0.165 divided by 1 minus 0.165, which is 0.835. So 0.835, yeah, so 0.165 divided by 0.835 equals 19.76%, and that is our SGR. Okay, so now let's take, let's go ahead and erase this so we can make a little bit of room up here. So let's take our two growth rates. So we have 0.22 plus 0.1976 divided by 2. So we're going to average the two growth rates. And we get 0.2088. We're going to add 1 to that. Equals 1.2088 times last year's earnings per share, which was $7.19. And we get $8.69. And that's our forecast for earnings per share for 2015 is $8.69. So we calculated the CAGR of 24.0. I did something wrong. Here you go. I made a mistake. The 22% was our return on equity. That's not a right number. That's not a right number. We're taking this number here. So it's 0.244 plus 0.1976 divided by 2. Mistakes happen. So let's clear this up. 0.244 plus 0.1976 equals, divided by 2 equals 0.2208. It's not going to make much difference, but let's do it right. So, yeah, that's going to make a difference. So 1.2208 times 7.19, let's add 1 to it, and multiply that times 7.19, and we get $8.78. All right, that's our right number. Sorry about that. So we took our CAGR, stuck it here, and then we took our SGR and stuck it here. We calculated an average growth rate here. We added 1 to it here, multiplied it by last year's earnings per share here, and came up with next year's earnings per share. So everyone, you need to be able to do this slide. The answers are not on here. I came up with that slide so we would work that in class. So let's go ahead. Let me check the video here, make sure everything's working well. Yeah, everything seems to be working fine. All right. So please note that once you establish the estimated growth rates using a company's historical information, so these growth rates aren't guaranteed, it's a best guess using history. Okay? It is prudent to discuss with management the likelihood that the company can sustain past trends. What are we doing? We are saying we have measured how you've grown in the past, and we are projecting that, extrapolating that into the future. Is that a reasonable thing to do for your business, or do you see circumstances for your business changing that might affect the growth rates going forward? Maybe the growth rates going forward will be better. Maybe the growth rates going forward will be worse than they have been in the past. So you have to work with management. All right? Part of the conversation should include plans that management has that might impact growth. And this includes things like store openings. If you're a retailer, if you sell things, maybe you open more stores. New product launches, a huge driver of growth. What is your plan for new products? Acquisitions. Are you out there looking to buy other companies that have new services and new products to add to what you are doing? Raising prices. That's one way to increase your sales number. Raise your prices. Changes in your product mix. Okay? That'll affect your profit margins. Excuse me. And then your cost trends. The items that cost you, your labor, your materials, your distribution, things like that. What do your cost trends look like going forward? Your labor contracts, as I just mentioned, these are things that all impact growth, and you have to talk to management about these items before you make a forecast. All right, so we are halfway there with regard to valuing assets. We've looked at growth rates, we've looked at the fundamentals, forecasting fundamentals. Remember that valuing assets, let's go ahead and make a little room on this. And valuing assets, here's the formula to value assets, just to keep it in the forefront of your mind. So a forecast price is equal to a forecast fundamental. That's what we just did, forecast the fundamental, times a forecast multiple. So we're halfway there. We've done this. What we have to do now is forecast the multiple, and we'll do that in the next clip.